Welcome to Saint of the Week. This week we will focus on Saint Teresa of Avila, patron saint of headache sufferers. Canonized in 1622, Saint Teresa's symbol is a heart, an arrow, and a book. Saint Teresa was born Teresa Sanchez Cepeda de Avila y Ahumada at Avila, Old Castile on March 28, 1515. She was the third child of her father Don Alfonso Sanchez de Cepeda by his second wife, Doña Beatriz de Avila y Ahumada. Teresa's mother died when she was 14, and she was subsequently raised by her father, a lover of serious books. After the death of her mother and the marriage of her eldest sister, Teresa continued her schooling with the Augustinian nuns in her hometown of Avila. After a while, she left due to illness and returned home to live with her father and with other relatives, including an uncle who introduced her to the letters of St. Jerome. This was a catalyst for her choosing the religious life. Unlike other saints such as Teresa of Lisieux, Teresa of Avila didn't choose a religious life because of a burning desire for it, but rather because it seemed the safest choice for someone as impetuous as she was known to be. Like Teresa of Lisieux, however, her father did not agree with her decision to choose religious life. Consequently, in November of 1535, Teresa snuck out of her father's home and joined the Carmelite convent of the Incarnation of Avila. At that time, the convent in Avila was more like a sorority house than a house of prayerful contemplation, and Teresa was encouraged to take place in the parties and social gatherings of her fellow sisters. After joining the convent, Teresa began a practice called mental prayer, through which she tried as hard as she could to keep Jesus Christ present within her. She claimed her imagination was dull to the point that she could come up with no great theological points. She described the practice this way: "Mental prayer, in my opinion, is nothing else than an intimate sharing between friends. It means taking time frequently to be alone with Him who we know loves us. The important thing is not to think much, but to love much, and so do that which best stirs you to love. Love is not great delight, but desire to please God in everything." This practice of mental prayer stayed with her 18 years in an on-again, off-again manner, even though she felt she wasn't getting results. Shortly after joining the convent, Teresa fell ill with malaria, and at one point was so comatose that when she awoke, she found that a grave had been dug for her because she was presumed to be dead. After unskilled medical intervention, she was still mostly physically impaired, even though she had a partial recovery due to the intercession of St. Joseph. Teresa always felt unworthy of the graces God bestowed upon her, most notably intellectual visions and locutions, manifestations in which the senses are not affected, yet the things seen and heard are impressed directly on the mind. Much like St. Faustina, Teresa felt that she was an unworthy vessel and tried everything in her power not to have the visions. Because of her feelings of unworthiness, Teresa would confess her sins, often exaggerating their seriousness, perhaps out of scrupulosity, to the point that her visions were seen as being from the devil. One confessor gave her the penance of making an obscene gesture every time she had a vision of Jesus. This distressed Teresa immensely, but she did as she was ordered. Jesus confirmed to her that she was correct to obey her confessor, even though she cringed every time she did so. She wrote in her autobiography, "I am more afraid of those who are terrified of the devil than I am of the devil himself." Upon complaining to Christ about her treatment by those around her due to the visions she was experiencing, he replied, "Teresa, that's how I treat my friends." Her response is a well-known quote that has helped many through tough times in their walk of faith. No wonder you have so few friends. The truism that one should have true friends even if they are few drove Teresa to reform the Carmelite order. She was 43 when she wanted to take the Carmelites back to the basics of being a contemplative order, that being a simple life of poverty devoted to prayer. This proved to be easier said than accomplished, since it challenged the way things were done at her current convent. She faced much opposition but persevered, seeing every challenge as a way to grow closer to God and also as good publicity. The Order of Discalced Carmelites was approved and canonically established on June 22, 1580, when Teresa was 65 years old. Teresa is well known also for her saying, "May God protect me from gloomy saints." It was her rule of life and the way she ran her convent. Her spiritual life was based on an attitude of love, not rule. Rather than begging as a way of living under the rule of poverty, she chose work. Rather than penance after the fact, she espoused obedience to God. Rather than punish oneself for wrongdoing, she encouraged others to change. Rather than wallow in despair, she counseled those who were depressed to go take a walk and look at the sky. Teresa died shortly after her Order of Carmelites was established, but her legacy lives on. In 1970, St. Teresa of Avila was proclaimed to be a Doctor of the Church, an honor reserved currently to only 3 women, including St. Teresa of Lisieux and St. Catherine of Siena. Thanks for watching Saint of the Week on YouTube. Please join us next week when we examine the life of St. John of Capistrano. Until next time, please enjoy the following prayers.